Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is taking their last breath. They don't know it's their last one. It feels like every other breath they've taken their entire life. And in the next few seconds, something is going to happen inside their body and their brain that scientists have only recently started to understand. You are going to learn what it is, and by the end of this, the way you think about the last moment of a life is going to change completely. Let's start with the heart, because that's usually where it begins. The heart stops pumping blood. Maybe it's sudden, maybe it's slow, but either way, the moment circulation stops, a clock starts ticking inside every cell of the body. Your cells need oxygen constantly, not once an hour, not once a minute, constantly. The brain alone uses about 20% of the oxygen your entire body consumes, even though it's only 2% of your body weight. So when the blood stops moving, the brain is the first organ to really feel it. You might think the brain shuts off immediately, like flipping a switch. That's not what happens. In the first few seconds after the heart stops, the brain doesn't go dark. It goes into a kind of chaos. Electrical activity doesn't simply fade out, it can actually spike. Researchers studying dying brains in both animals and, more recently, in humans connected to monitoring equipment during end-of-life care have recorded sudden bursts of coordinated brainwaves in the seconds after the heart stops. These are the same kinds of brainwave patterns seen during intense concentration, dreaming, and recollection of memories. In other words, in its final moments, the brain isn't quietly powering down. It's doing something that looks a lot like thinking. This is where a lot of near-death experience accounts start to make more scientific sense. People who have been revived after their heart stopped have described a sensation of reviewing their life, a feeling of calm, a sense of leaving their body, or moving toward light. For a long time, this was treated as something almost mystical, impossible to study. But if the brain genuinely produces a final surge of highly organized activity, right as it's losing its oxygen supply, that surge has to feel like something. You wouldn't experience it as static or silence. You might experience it as vivid, hyper-real, dreamlike. Not because something otherworldly is happening, but because the last thing your brain does before it runs out of fuel is fire in patterns associated with memory and awareness. While all this is happening in the brain, the rest of the body is going through its own process, and it's happening on a much slower timeline than most people assume. Death isn't a single instant, it's a cascade. Different tissues die at different rates depending on how much oxygen they need to survive. Brain cells are extremely oxygen hungry, so without circulation, permanent brain injury can begin within minutes, but other tissues are far more resilient. Skin cells, muscle cells, and connective tissue can survive for hours without a blood supply. This is actually why organ transplants are possible at all. A kidney or a liver can be removed from a body that has already been declared dead and still function perfectly well in someone else, because those cells hadn't actually died yet, they were just waiting. Hair and nails don't keep growing after death, despite what you may have heard. That's an old myth. What actually happens is the skin around the hair and nails dehydrates and pulls back, making hair and nails look longer by comparison. Nothing is still growing. But the myth exists because it feels true, because it seems to confirm the idea that the body doesn't fully understand it's dead all at once. And in a strange way, that idea isn't far off. Cells don't receive some kind of universal signal the moment a person is declared dead. Each cell operates on its own internal survival program. Some cells, when they sense they're not getting enough oxygen, trigger a process called apoptosis, a kind of orderly self-destruction where the cell breaks itself down cleanly to avoid damaging its neighbors. Other cells, especially under extreme stress, undergo necrosis, a messier process where the cell membrane ruptures and its contents spill out. Which pathway a cell takes affects how quickly the surrounding tissue breaks down, which is part of why forensic scientists can estimate time of death by examining how far these processes have progressed. Around the same time all of this is unfolding at the cellular level, something else is happening that most people never think about. The gut is full of bacteria, trillions of them, that spend your entire life helping you digest food and staying carefully contained within your digestive system. Once the immune system stops functioning and blood stops circulating, there's nothing keeping those bacteria in place anymore. They begin to spread through the body. Breaking down tissue is part of the natural process of decomposition. This is also why bodies typically begin to change color and produce certain smells within 1 to 3 days, depending on temperature and environment. It's not mysterious. It's biology doing exactly what biology has always done, just without the immune system standing guard anymore. Temperature plays an enormous role in all of this. Immediately after death, the body starts to cool, dropping toward the temperature of its surroundings in a fairly predictable pattern, which is another tool used to estimate how long ago someone died. Around 2 to 6 hours after death, a process called rigor mortis begins. The muscles stiffen because the cellular machinery that normally lets muscle fibers relax has run out of the energy molecule they depend on. This stiffness isn't permanent. After about a day or two, the same breakdown processes that are dismantling everything else in the body cause the muscles to relax again. Here's the part that tends to surprise people the most. Consciousness, as far as science can currently tell, is almost certainly one of the very first things to go, not one of the last. That final burst of brain activity right after the heart stops appears to fade, within roughly 30 seconds in most documented cases. After that, there's no more coordinated electrical activity capable of producing thought, memory, or awareness. Everything you've read up to this point, the cooling, the stiffening, the bacterial spread, the cellular breakdown, all of that happens in a body that is, by every measure science has, no longer experiencing anything at all. That distinction matters. It means the process of dying and the process of decomposing are almost entirely separate. Dying, the part where you stop being aware, seems to happen quickly and based on brain activity patterns may not be nearly as frightening as people assume. Decomposing, the part everyone pictures when they think about death, is just your body's raw materials being recycled by the same natural systems that have always been quietly running inside you. There's no cruelty in it. There's no punishment in it. It's closer to your body, handing off its resources to the world it's always been a part of. Cultures across history have tried to explain this moment with religion, philosophy, and folklore, largely because science didn't have the tools to look closely enough until relatively recently. Now, with brain monitoring during end-of-life care and a much deeper understanding of cellular biology, we're starting to see that this final threshold isn't a mystery in the way we once believed. It's a sequence, predictable, biological, and in its own strange way, orderly. So the next time you take a breath without thinking about it, consider this. Somewhere down the line, one of your breaths will be your last one too, and you won't know it in the moment, just like everyone before you. But now you know what's actually happening in those final seconds. The surge, the calm, the quiet handoff that follows. It isn't an ending you should fear. It's simply the last thing your body ever does for you.